Hello, and welcome to another episode of the ohmTown Daily News Show. I just muted everything. Sorry about that. But the music cannot stream. Unfortunately, I'm trying. I don't know. Uh, if you like the music at the beginning of it, let me know. But lately, I've been killing it and I haven't heard anything. So, at any rate, I am Mayor Watt. That's my site. I run ohmTown. ohmtown.com is where the site aggregates a bunch of news that I talk about each day in the ohmTown Daily News Show. It's not a smooth intro, but I'm working on it. I tend to vamp every episode, other than pre-selecting some articles. I don't read the articles prior. I have experience in it and knowledge because of what I do each day. But for the most part, I kind of just, I guess, wing it. It's about 20 articles, sourced from about 200 news sources, aggregated into 6 categories and funneled into 50 channels, each of which I intend to bring to Twitch. It's been about 4 months now. Actually, it's been 115 days, 114 days. Today is the 115th day. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 114 days. Wow. I'm not even going to edit any of this, by the way. How it is built is how it goes out, and I want you to hear how the sausage is made, so to speak. With that in mind, if you go over to ohmtown.com, you'll get all of the news that I actually talk about here. I link it in chat. I link it in the show notes. Not really on the VODs, because the VODs only have a 14-day lifespan here on Twitch, and I move everything. I move everything every day over to YouTube and to the podcast, which you can get via Apple, Google Play, and Spotify. At least for now. And there might be others in the future, but just grab your favorite podcatcher and go from there. It's pretty easy to get from one of those 3 sources. Just do a search for ohmTown and you'll find me. You can go over to ohmTown on YouTube as well. So youtube.com/ohmTown. Boom. You've got ohmTown there too. That said, let's get into it. It's an interesting day. So I only have about an hour. I can stay a little bit longer. But I'm going to go, if nobody is in chat, actively chatting, I'm just going to take off and watch a fellow streamer named Dunkster, Duncastar. There you go, Dunkster. Great guy from South Africa. Streams at an interesting time for us in the United States, because it's nighttime for him when it's daytime for us. But it's always a blast, very entertaining, and a lot of fun to talk to. So, and you can talk to him because he's very engaged with his community, with his chat. So go check him out. At any rate, again, I'm Mayor Watt. I run ohmTown, and that's what this show is about, and the news that I present. So let's get into it. For the 3rd time, I've said that. The very first article is... Oh my goodness. I have things misaligned on my screen and I can't do things quickly. Okay, so here we go. Doink. Let me make sure that actually went. Yeah, okay. So sorry about that. Again, this is how the sausage is made, and you get to hear it and see it all if you watch the chat and if you watch the YouTube channel. The very first article is Apple warns developers it will pull apps without recent updates from the App Store. So this is in the Smack Talk channel on ohmTown. And it says developers are complaining on social media that Apple is preparing to remove apps from the App Store that haven't been updated in a long time, unless developers issue an update quickly. In a number of posts on Twitter on Saturday, developers have revealed that they've received emails from Apple about an App Store improvement notice. The email warns developers that the has not been updated in a significant amount of time and is scheduled to be removed from sale in 30 days. Apple's message says the app can be kept available for new users in the App Store by submitting an update for review within 30 days. Let's click the link. It'll take us over to appleinsider.com, and Malcolm Owen is the author of this article. I'm one of those that have received a notice, and it's interesting because if your app doesn't need updates, it still doesn't matter. If your app is functioning as expected and doesn't need to be updated, it doesn't get updated. But apparently, you always have to be updated. So it says Apple's message says that the app can be kept available. So all you have to do is make some subtle change to your app, and hopefully it falls within the terms of use as a developer. I will probably not even bother. My app hasn't been, I don't market my app, kind of like this podcast and Twitch channel and whatnot. I've been letting word of mouth suffice. I haven't advertised anywhere, but I suppose many people do. I don't know, or they start from having something and they leverage it into a podcast or stream channel or something. Although there's context to that too. So depending on who you are, it seems easier to, and what your content is, it seems easier to be discovered. That said, this person here in the appleinsider.com article, there's a tweet that says, I feel sick. Apple just sent me an email saying they're removing my free game Motivoto because it's more than 2 years old. It's part of their app improvement system. This is not cool. Console games from 2000 are still available for sale. This is unfair barrier to indie developers, and I agree. If your app is just fine, then it shouldn't need to be quote unquote updated. But it amounts to having to go back, audit your code, update something, and resubmit it so that it can be reviewed and then put back onto the rotation list, I suppose. I'm not sure how often this deletion of what might be coined stale software, stale apps, what the rotation might be for these stale apps. But let's continue on. The next article is about Meta, and it's in the Word in Tech channel. And it says here, after losing a record $230 billion in market value due to a disappointing earnings report in February, analysts are hoping to see progress. Meta experienced an historic nosedive in value earlier this year amid a major rebrand and shakeups to its business model, and investors are bracing for another difficult quarter. Meta lost a record $230 billion in market value. Billion. That's the entire net worth of Elon Musk, just so you know, and he's the richest person on the planet at this time. Let's click the link. It takes us over to The Guardian, and Carrie Paul is the author of this article. So Meta is basically Facebook, just like Alphabet is basically Google. The difference is that Meta became the parent company of disparate services under it. And that way, if one service screws up, the entire value of the enterprise isn't bearing that brunt. You can isolate the loss to that particular company without damaging the reputation of the parent, which I think is marginal at best. But it really, what it does is it allows you to exfiltrate the wealth of one enterprise and bring it into the parent. Because the subsidiary company is owned and controlled by the parent, it's kind of like beyond arm's reach, even though the leadership of Meta is really running all of these other companies through directive and through financial control and fiduciary duty, so to speak. It says here, Meta's struggle was not completely unexpected. Chief Executive Officer Mark Zuckerberg had warned that new privacy rules from Apple could cost the company $10 billion in lost sales this year. The regulations prevent Meta from collecting certain user data and have prompted the company to shift some of its core advertising business models. And I think this is wonderful. That's the end of their statement. I think this is wonderful. I think that individuals should be in control of their information, even on free services. That wholesale aggregation of your information should not be allowed. I don't collect this kind of information at that level. Every single site that has Facebook tracking or Instagram or pretty much any trackers on it, funnel that information, that telemetry back to ultimately Meta, and by way of that, allows advertising to be pointed at you. And I have told people stories over the years about tracking and demonstrated how fast the tracking is, and I can do it in real time. Maybe in this next episode I'll do it. A lot of people are they're either um, ignoring it, or they consciously choose to not pay attention to it, but you're being tracked all the time. And there was recently some discussion about trackers, and um, I I keep telling people that the people that know more about you than Google or Facebook or anything is your ISP. Your ISP knows every single site that you go through, because they are the gateway. It's literally called a gateway. So your DNS is for your computer is connected to your ISP. Um, and so if you go anywhere, you want to go watch My Little Pony Rainbow Adventure and then start talking on the Brony discussion board on Reddit. Guess who knows about it before Reddit does? Guess who knows about it before um, Prime does, or YouTube does? Well, it's your ISP. You can pop up a VPN, and that's your only protection, but then your VPN really does know about you. And as long as they tell you they don't track, well, I guess that's possible. But at any rate, um, Meta is losing information, and it's losing information, and because of that, it's losing valuation. And in all of this machination, you've got the loss of 230 billion in market value. Meanwhile, massive amounts of wealth are exiting from the investor stockpile, because not just the 230 billion, but hundreds of millions are going to the CEO suite, or the C suite as it is, and not funneled down to employees. So you have this disparity of wealth. And again, you don't become a billionaire from the ground up. You start out as a millionaire. So let's continue on with the next article. The next article is in the Mobile Channel, How to Handle Returning to Office. I'm going to read the quote, the little snippet. The gossip, the loud talker, and the nosy colleague are all manageable with the right mindset. So you're going to return to the office. This article is in New York Times and .com, and it's written by Jancy Dunn. And it says, after 2 years of working from home during the pandemic and plenty of false starts, employees are officially heading back to work as the RTO, or return to office, is in full swing. Roughly 60% of the U.S. workers who could work from home were still signing in remotely as of January, according to a survey by the Pew Research Center. As the Omicron variant of coronavirus set back RTO plans, but now companies like Google are insisting that their workers return to office on hybrid work schedules. And that's the end of of what I'll be reading about that. their perspective. You can go over to New York Times and read the rest of this about exactly how to cope with it, but it's going to be different. I mean, you can sit there and say, um, take a deep breath and go outside and try to ignore the loud talker or put headphones on or bow out of gossip, etc. That they go through some things here. Nosy cubicle, boring storyteller. It's basically categorizing a bunch of people. Tuna melt reheater. This is all sociological stuff that you deal with on a daily basis when you're not in the office as well as in the office. But to me, I think that everybody should be challenging this. Everybody who could stay at home and do work can stay at home and do work. And it's all about showing the benefits of remote work. You can still get the job done. You can still perform 100%, sometimes beyond what you were doing prior, simply because it's easier to get to and from a meeting when all you have to do is strike up a Zoom call. Um, and um, and there you have it. That's basically the benefit to the company. You are more effective and efficient when you don't have to spend an hour in traffic and have to leave for an hour for lunch. You can still do it. You can still take an hour for lunch, but it's more efficient, more effective for you. You are a happier employee. You do more work. That's kind of how it works. So I think that everybody en masse should be challenging the return to office mandate, mindset, ideology. And that's all it is. You can do just as much work when you're not sitting in the same office as a bunch of other people. Um, and like this article says, I mean, you're categorizing them in this article here. Let me scroll back down again. A loud talker, there always is. The gossip, yes, it's always going on. And it's more efficient when it's not a person coming into your cubicle. The nosy cubicle mate. Um, I haven't had a cubicle mate in I don't know how long, but anyway, um, yeah, I mean, there's always this social side. And while many people embrace it, other people don't. And it's a whole lot easier if there's nuance to policy and procedure and not just blanket decisions. Everybody does this, everybody does that. And also not arbitrary. There's one CEO that said only 10% are going to be fully working from home. Why 10%? It's an arbitrary term. Why not let leadership decide on a person by person basis who should or could and is responsible enough to work from home and still be effective? So let's continue on with the next article. The next article is in the Warcrafters channel. Bethesda launcher will shut down on May 11th. Back in February, Bethesda announced plans to place a merciful bullet in the brain pan of the Bethesda launcher, an unloved alternative to certain other popular digital game management programs. Those plans have since been elaborated in, or on, I should say. They have a typo. In an update, pardon me, I read that wrong. In an update to a blog post about sunsetting the launcher and migrating to Steam. Quote, if you do have games through the Bethesda.net launcher, it says, don't worry. Starting on April 27th, you'll be able to migrate your games and wallet to your Steam account. That's great. So there you have it, folks. Bethesda's launcher is going to die by the sword, and you'll move over to Steam starting April 27th. So it's just right around the corner, folks. Hope you're ready. And I'll post this onto YouTube and to the podcast right after the broadcast. Interesting. Okay, so this article is written over at PCGamer.com, and again, the title of it is "The Bethesda launcher will shut down on May 11th, and you'll be able to transfer your games, wallet, and most of your saves, according to the article, to Steam April 27th." The article is written by Jody McGregor. And you can go over and listen to more of what's in this article, but for the most part, that's what it is. But definitely go over and show Jody McGregor some attention. The next article is in the Daily News Show, a 13-year-old Minnesota youth is set to graduate from college. The boy has a major in physics and a minor in math. And these prodigies, we got into a discussion um, Friday, Saturday. I haven't spoken about it today, but at any rate, child prodigies tend to they all go in their own specific pathway. But what tends to happen is they graduate early from high school, they graduate early from college, and then um, their um, their knowledge, their drive, everything kind of sunsets, and so they can become an expert. So many of them that I have learned about um, have typically gone into education. Others they sunset and bow out of the field that they became a subject matter expert in a relative short amount of time, while others remain in the field and may or may not do great things. But it's always interesting. Um, Child prodigies tend to be the thing that other parents point their children at and say, be like this. And it's not really something that you can just motivate your child to do. They typically either are or are not having an affinity for something, be it music, math, engineering. Typically, it's math. Um, and by way of that, the things that are impacted by math, right? So if you're very good at math, then you're probably also subsequently good at the science side of things. But being good at math doesn't mean that you're going to be a great psychologist, for instance, because psychology doesn't necessarily lean on math. Maybe the formulas for medication and whatnot, but math doesn't necessarily lean on that or into psychology or other sciences um, that don't really require a great amount of math in their curricula. So, at any rate, my point is that research also bears out that um, parents that motivate their child to excel at an early age um, may drive their child away from the field when they get to age of majority and just bow out entirely. So it's probably better for most parents to say, stay driven, but be a holistic human being because you'll be a happier one at the end of the day. Make sense? So if you are a parent, keep that in, and your child is a prodigy. Pushing them doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stay in the field, nor are they going to love it. They may hate themselves and their career and whatever else, and then bow out the moment that they can. Much like many people who go to college break away from parental control with great zeal. Um, so let's continue on with the next article. And you'll be able to follow all of the links either in the show notes or in the discussion board or in the chat, wherever you find the podcast or the stream. So the next article is in Band to Bezel. This is it comes from monochrome-watches.com, but they've got something that has to do with cars, sometimes vehicles or whatnot. The world of watches is often associated with and closely related to the world of cars, but to some, 2 wheels might be better than 4. And for these people, we have a very cool story to tell you inside the petrol head corner. So let's click the link and take you over to Monochrome. And it says here you have a 1 in 300 chance of winning a custom Indian Scout in support of the firefighter charity in the UK. And there's the motorcycle. So this is going to be a raffle of some sort. I have no relationship with this, so if you go over to the site and you follow the links over to it, just know that I don't have anything to do with it. I just wanted to see the motorcycle and show you and introduce you to monochrome watches. This is an article written by Robin Nooy. It's Nooy, so it might be Nui. And I'm going to scroll down, show you a little bit more. There isn't really much that I'm going to go into. Um, by 1953, the company went bankrupt, Indian, and it would remain dormant until 2011. Since then, the company has been hard at work at reestablishing itself as a leading leisure vehicle, making motorcycle brand. One of the most important bikes of the Indian was the Scout, initially produced from 1920 to 1942 and reintroduced in 2015. So the brand is being resurrected. It was, for some reason, kind of marginalized in history, but people always spoke highly of the Indian. It was a very positive, seemingly positive. Every time I've ever spoken to anybody about Indian motorcycles, they've been very passionate about it. Um, so, how it's coupled to a watch website is right here. William Wood Watches, UK-based independent watchmaking company William Wood Watches, has a rather interesting story to tell. Named after the founder's grandfather, a decorated firefighter, William Wood Watches has embraced the firefighting legacy in all of its collections. Starting with a Kickstarter project in 2017, the brand is celebrating its 5th anniversary with a special watch this year. And it looks like it's harkening back to kind of a bygone age of aesthetic. We've covered the Valiant collection, the Triumph Chronograph collection before, both of which are riddled with original and interesting details related to firefighting. So you can go over and check this out. Each one of their watches in this collection has a uh, firefighting helmet right underneath the 12 o'clock. So it's pretty neat. And I dig this kind of a watch. I'm not too, I've said it before, I'm not really sure why I'm even drawing attention to it, because it's pretty innocuous in this. It has a calendar window, but it also has other windows, so it kind of gets lost. I'm just not a fan of the calendar window for some reason. But in this case, it doesn't really matter because there's other cutouts in the face. So it's pretty neat. Let's see. I'm not sure if there's anything else in here to talk about. Oh, wow. It has a cool wood element in it. That's interesting. Okay. Anyway, so go check it out. You'll be able to find out more about it. And if you're in the area, you can enter the auction, or not auction. What do you call it? Fundraiser. And you can support the firefighters charity. Okay, so let's continue on with the next article. It's in the Daily News Show. My county grants approval for Amazon's helix-shaped headquarters. The Arlington County Board has given unanimous approval of Amazon's plans to build a unique helix-shaped tower as the centerpiece of its emerging second headquarters in Northern Virginia. Let's click the link. So the Arlington County Board has given unanimous approval to Amazon's plans to build a unique helix-shaped tower in the center, or as the centerpiece of its emerging second headquarters in Northern Virginia. This is an article over at ABC News written by Matthew Barakat from the Associated Press. And it says here, Amazon announced the plans in February 2021 for the eye-catching 350-foot tower to anchor the second phase of its redevelopment plans. The new office towers will support a second headquarters for Amazon that is expected to welcome more than 25,000 workers when it's complete. Well, that's great. Amazon said it hopes to complete the project in 2025. Let's see. Because skyscrapers are banned in the District of Columbia and the Amazon buildings will be among the tallest in Arlington County, from some vantage points, the helix will dominate the skyline, the region's skyline, like no building other than the Washington Monument. Well, that's kind of interesting because, pardon me, um, the picture completely belies the height of this thing, as it's surrounded by other buildings of equal height. So I'm not sure how it's going to dominate anything. Um, and I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be. I haven't looked to see where it's going to be, but I could probably swing by and see what the proposed site is. Um, let's go on to the next article. Your digital self. Don't dismiss Bored Apes. NFTs could turn out to be a practical form of sales and smart contracts. Non-fungible tokens, along with a nascent industry, could be developed and used widely. So I'm gonna click this link because there isn't much in the snippet, but this is a MarketWatch article that was first published on the 21st of April, and today is the 24th. So it was updated on the 23rd, late on the 23rd, middle of the day. At any rate, this article is written by Jurika Dujmovic. I'm probably pronouncing that horribly wrong, so let me know if I am. I'd be happy to address my pronunciation. But the article is all about NFTs, and it says here, while the hubbub has quieted down, NFTs aren't just a passing fad, and they've highlighted some of the biggest problems of modern society. The best example is a famous NFT project called Bored Apes Yacht Club. Bored Apes Yacht Club is a non-fungible token collection, 10,000 unique NFTs built on the Ethereum blockchain that features profile pictures of cartoon apes that are procedurally generated by an algorithm. The project has gained incredible popularity since its inception in 2021 and has made over 1 billion in sales so far. Bored Apes have attracted about 11,000 unique owners who, on average, paid 83 or 84 Ether, or $285,000 per NFT. Therein lies the problem. Who has that kind of money to spend on something that can only be described as a status symbol? Yep, that right there is what I talk about in this case. NFTs are a FOMO, kind of fear of missing out concept. People with money are buying things, or people without money are buying things and then immediately or holding on to it, trying to extract greater wealth. If you got in early, you made it. If you're coming in late, well, shame on you for not being tech savvy or in the loop or being informed by somebody. Basically, bummer. But are they of any value? Nope, not really. They're not of any value to anybody. It's basically the money that is spent on these things, it's all worthless until somebody buys it, right? So if you buy a piece of art and you stick it on your wall, it's worthless to everybody. It's even worthless to you other than your emotional value. You can write it off on taxes, I suppose. I don't know. I've never even looked into that aspect of something. Treat it as a business expense or an investment or whatever, and then you sell it. But any profits you make, it's only because by accident somebody else wanted it for that price. Whereas money is money, it has innate value. You take it somewhere, you can buy something. But an NFT is potentially, it's paper. It's not even paper. It's it is what its namesake is. It's ethereal. It's Ethereum. It only has value because it's pegged to the US dollar. Cryptocurrencies are worthless unless they're traded for something of perceived value, or they are translated, they are sold to somebody, and then you exfiltrate that wealth as an accepted currency. But most people have no interest and no interaction with cryptocurrency. NFTs have the potential, though, of changing the dynamic with digital goods. Why? Because I can have an NFT represent my physical product. And by that, I mean, if I buy a piece of software, let's say on Steam, and it costs $60, I am no longer able to sell that product. Like you have always been in the history of business, I've always had the right of first sale. I've been able to take my product. I could take my DVDs. I have a bunch of movies in my garage as DVDs because I no longer buy DVDs. But I can take my physical product and go somewhere and sell it to somebody for equal or greater or less value, whatever the market perceives it to be. I can't do that with digital goods, right? The way that the licensing is written, the way that the market has spun, it has made it impossible to sell a book that I purchase, or software that I purchase, or digital art that I purchase. I can theoretically sell it, but I can make innumerable I can make millions of copies, anything. Even going so far as to say I can procedurally generate Bored Apes Yacht Club and sell it. Right now, I can't do it without violating a copyright, I'm sure, or I can't trade on the name Bored Apes Yacht Club, but I can do the exact same thing. NFTs allow me to sell it. But if a physical product is tied to an NFT, or a digital product of the exact same kind is tied to an NFT, I should be able to sell the NFT and by way of that, sell the product. But it would take a change in acceptance in the terms. So people who are selling software right now, developers on Steam who sell the software right now, there's zero impetus for them to say, yeah, you can sell it as long as it's tied to an NFT. And really, the people that are making out money with every single transaction is OpenSea. So, because there's a cost associated with producing NFTs, I'm actually kind of boggled by the fact that Bored Apes Yacht Club made 10,000 of them and sold them on um, OpenSea. It's all of them being put together at once and put on the market was quite a bit of money in and of itself. So whoever did that, and I don't recall off the top of my head, they had money to begin with, or there were no fees at the time. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. Um, so maybe I can do some more homework on that and look into it. But NFTs will probably evolve, and I hope that somebody grabs onto this idea that I've been saying, and attach digital goods to NFTs and then sell the NFTs to somebody, and that denotes who the owner is of that particular code within a piece of software or a product or whatever. And if your code doesn't match your account for that particular NFT, then it's an invalid purchase. So then you have provenance for the product itself. So let's continue on before I get too bogged down into um, only a few articles. The next article is Record Store Day 2022's Most Wanted. I brought this up because I'm moderately interested in vinyl records, music in general. I love music, but I'm always fascinated by this sector. Vinyl records almost phased out entirely, and somewhere along the line, it became very popular to um, purchase actual records. To me, I want perfect audio as designed by the author of the work. And vinyl with each play actually does a little bit of damage to the record as the record bounces across the hills and valleys of a record. Marginal at best, but it changes over time. Um, and it's analog converted into digital. So at some point, it's going to deviate slightly. But record stores have surged over the years, and well, the pandemic probably didn't help. But this is in the continuity report, which is supposed to be about movies, um, but for whatever reason, it got grabbed into the continuity report, probably because it's from Variety. But this here is Record Store Days 2022 Most Wanted Beyond the Taylor Swift Hysteria, 25 more vinyl pieces worth hunting down. And it says here, face the facts. You're never ever getting that Taylor Swift exclusive Record Store Day release that's coming out Friday. 50 million Swift fans can't be wrong, and about a tenth of them seem bent on getting the 10,000 copies of a 7-inch single of The Lakes that's going on sale. So this is an article over at Variety, and it's written by Chris Willman. And it says, what else to look for in indie stores? Limited editions from Foo Fighters, Joni Mitchell, David Bowie, Charles Mingus, The Ramones, Lou Reed, Grateful Dead, and even David Lynch, for starters. Maybe that's what got it pulled into. Maybe that's what's got it. At any rate, it says here in this article, there are 10,000 copies of The Lakes from Taylor Swift, 9,000 copies of Blue Highlights from Joni Mitchell, 7,550 copies of Lou Reed, I'm So Free, the 1971 RCA demos, 2,000 copies of Portraits of Her. It says various artists for it, but that's interesting. So this article actually goes into greater detail about all of the 25, but I'm going to encourage you to go over there and you can read more about it and then come on back and holler at me. And let me know what you think of this. This is pretty neat, at least to me. I like this stuff. Sorry. And I'm really interested in the tech. So I watched the making of a record player, and I think it was like a $12,000 phonograph. I'll say it that way. I guess you move from record player to phonograph if the price is right. And it was just this massive chunk of wood with very little electronics inside it. But it's to stabilize it. And it was really fascinating to watch it getting made over on YouTube. So let's continue on. The next article is over in the Daily News Show. Mississippi is set to become the final state with equal pay law. Mississippi will become the final state with a law requiring equal pay for equal work by women and men. Yeah, 21st century, folks. And we're still struggling for equality between men and women. It only gets worse when you deviate, so to speak, from white middle-aged males. Mississippi will become the final state with a law requiring equal pay for equal work by women and men. And this is an article over at ABC News by Emily Wagster Pettis of Associated Press. It's a really short read, apparently. A 1963 federal law requires equal pay for equal work, but Mississippi has been the only state without its own law since Alabama enacted one in 2019. Oh, God. All of this stuff is bizarre. It's so bizarre. We're talking about 2019. 2019. 18 years after planes were flown into a building, or into two buildings in New York, we're still struggling for just equal pay between the sexes. Just between the sexes. If anything is a call to action that we're all supposed to be not marginalized based on sex. It's the simple fact that we have extremism like this. This should never have lasted this long. That it should have been mandated by every state, and everybody willingly bowing into this, leaning into this. Everybody who does equal work gets equal pay. It's really not that hard, right? But that's not what is still happening to this day. And that's just the two most obvious uh, gender separations there, right? It's male and female, and that's without any other nuance, right? The, and then we get into the fidelity of more and more and more and more marginalization, based on whatever strata you think is could separate one from another. And it's all about power and control and marginalization. And it's just so disgusting to me that this is happening in 2022. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I would love it for somebody to come to me and say, well, this makes sense. Why does it make sense to you? Um, it doesn't make any sense to me. Um, other than the fact that this the ideology is stuck in history. I can't even say 13th century because I think that it's even more base than that. I mean, it's all about controlling people, and having it on the books means that it would have to be removed from the books instead of society just going, why does this exist? Look at it proactively and remove it. This is something Mississippi, it says Republican Governor Tate Reeves signed House Bill 770 on Wednesday and will become law on July 1st. Let's see if I can find in here why this even exists. Yeah, I'd probably have to do a deeper dive into why this even exists. But anyway, I thought that it would be interesting to talk about this briefly. So, that said, I'll just move on. The fact of the matter is that in the 21st century, everybody should be getting equal pay regardless, equal work for equal pay. It doesn't matter what you identify as. It doesn't matter what gender you believe you are. Equal work for equal pay. Now if I can't lift 100 pounds and that's part of my job description, then I can't do the job. So you're going to have to find somebody that can do the job. But this is a law that's saying equal pay for women and men. And now I'm betting that somebody will pop up out of the woodwork and go, well, this person doesn't identify as male or female, so they don't get equal pay or something equally obnoxious. But there's always people that are seeking to marginalize others to gain better, um, better for themselves versus being a social holistic animal and accepting people of all persuasions, I guess you could say, just accepting people as people. So let's continue on to the next article. The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel, and it's Blackstone's $280 billion real estate team is buying up everything from warehouses to campus housing to biotech lab space. Here's a look at its power players. And it says here in my aggregators snippet, it says, "Hi, I'm Matt Turner, the editor-in-chief of Business at Insider. Welcome back to Insider Weekly, a roundup of some of our top stories." So I'm going to click the link and I'm going to try and find the Blackstone one. The Blackstone story that's talking about grabbing real estate. Let's see. So it says here, in just this past week, it bet $13 billion on student housing with a deal to buy American campus communities. In the past few months, it acquired Australia's Crown Resorts for $6.3 billion and reinvested in its European logistics real estate company. So the reason why I clicked on this is because what's happening is there is a lot of wealth out there, and it's concentrated in a very few people, typically in corporations. And those corporations are actually buying real estate, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. But with this concentration of wealth and the concentration of control of real estate, you basically are setting out a corporate level landowner exclusivity. And so people are going to have to purchase something or lease something or rent something if you're trying to rent an apartment or a condo or something like that. But you're literally paying somebody else's mortgage. And because so much wealth is controlled by so few, that access to an ongoing lifestyle, owning a house and a yard and all of the accoutrement of uh, ownership of real estate is gone. You're paying into somebody else's future funds. And this really creates generational wealth for everybody else. So the reason why I brought this up is because I, as a human being, and trying to understand the ways of the world, uh, I'm at odds with this concentration. I think that more people should be able to afford houses, but they can't afford houses because the people with great wealth are buying up real estate and preventing others from getting it simply because they have the means to do so. Either um, very few of them have grown to the level where they can do this, but it's usually either a consortium or it's generational wealth that's given them the ability to acquire all of this real estate. And if you look at Canada, there are um, oligarchs from around the world that are buying real estate. Is great wealth that is buying it in the United States and controlling it, and it is at odds with being a social animal. You're literally keeping somebody else from ever getting the ability to own their own existence. And there's so many people that have said to me, well, that's not somebody else's fault. They're buying the land because of whatever reason. And to me, I say, there has to be a rationale. There has to be a rational human being there that says, I don't need all of this. But then I'm told that I'm being naive or just plain crazy, that people shouldn't be able to buy whatever they want and prevent others from doing the same. Well, we need more competition then. We need more builders, but you can't, because even the builders are owned by the wealthy. Um, they're not out there just buying up land and building stuff willy nilly. They have to find value in it. And when the wealth of the ultra rich is leveraged to buy land that is suitable for building houses, you end up with costs that are pricing out a builder from even building reasonably priced housing. And it just gets a whole lot messier from there because we are all attached to each other in some way, usually financially. And that financial aspect impacts the social, and that's how you end up with socioeconomic processes that prevent people from buying a house. Um, or, I mean, even a tiny home. If you want it somewhere out on the edge of the city, you still have to buy the land, but the land is owned by somebody. And when you peel back the layers of the onion, you find out that it's rich people. And like I've said in other episodes, you don't become a billionaire by being a compassionate millionaire. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas as well. Ritz-Carlton's new luxury cruise ship with penthouses at sea will sail in August. Let's see. The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection will debut its first cruise liner, the Everma. I'm going to have to look into that name. That one catches me off guard. The ship faces years-long delay amid COVID-19 and reports of budgeting issues. And they have a little picture story over at Business Insider. So let's go over there and take a look at it. BusinessInsider.com article written by Brittany Chang. This looks like a render, so let's see if the pictures that come later are more representative of the cruise ship. To me, until they stamp out COVID to a greater degree, only somewhere around 66% of the United States has been vaccinated. I'm not sure if the rest of them are people who are anti-vaccine and don't want to wear a mask, but at any rate, they might as well just call this the SS COVID. Let's scroll down and see if there's anything that isn't a render. This looks like a render. I can't even count this as real. This looks like a render to me. It's been 5 years and a full pandemic since the brand first announced its intention to launch a yacht and cruise arm. Let's continue on, see if there's something that even remotely resembles something that is real. This whole article might be a compilation of renders. Yeah, none of this actually looks like it's real. Even this looks like a render to me. I don't know. Okay, well, I'll just continue on with the next article. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel again, aggregated probably from Business Insider. Yeah. So this is I lead private jet excursions that cost up to $130,000 a person. It's an intense job, but I love it. This is an article by Susan Cave. Sorry, I'm trying to pronounce it properly. Susan Kagovsky, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry. But let's click the link and just take you over to the article. So yeah, this person. Oh, it's an article written by Molly O'Brien. Pardon me. But it's the person that's telling this story is Susan Kagovsky. Yeah, I think. Boarding a private jet for a TCS World Travel Expedition. Interesting. In 2007, after 6 years of exploring, I was ready to return to the working world and decided to look into tourism. Saw an ad for TCS World Travels Around the World by Private Jet Expedition and thought, wow, focusing on vanishing languages and vanishing cultures is definitely my thing. So gave them a call and got hired as an assistant expedition leader. And after 5 years, she was one of TCS's 5 expedition leaders in 2012. As expedition leader, it's her responsibility to make sure all of the clients have the best time of their lives while traveling. Yeah, and at $130,000 a person, I should hope so. So let's continue on to the next article. Here in a minute. Our trips start at $70,000 per person for an 8-night, 9-day group expedition to the U.S. national parks and go all the way up to $130,000 for a person for a 24-night, 52-person group jet expedition that goes around the world. For the larger big jet trips, the price depends on whether it's a 5-stop or 8-stop itinerary, and these start at about $85,000 per person. At the end of the day, I think these multi-country journeys are the best of what we offer. Yeah, I suppose so. Cool. So go over to businessinsider.com. You can get more out of the pictures and review more of the details if you're interested in that kind of thing. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel again. United and American Airlines are replacing planes with buses on some routes as in an attempt to tackle the pilot shortage. Some U.S. airlines are replacing planes with buses on short routes to combat a pilot shortage. United and American recently signed contracts with Bus as flight company Landline. Per Bloomberg, one route offered by United will take passengers from Denver to smaller cities like Breckenridge. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer, though. An ongoing pilot shortage has prompted U.S. airlines to replace planes with buses. So why are pilots in shortage? This is a BusinessInsider.com article as well. I guess it's been a busy news day for Business Insider. This is an article written by Zara Tayeb. and an ongoing pilot shortage. Let's see here. Per Bloomberg, United and American Airlines signed contracts with Colorado-based bus as flight company Landline to transport passengers and their luggage. Well, what if my car's at the location? um, or some other location that I'm supposed to get to? I guess that they'll schedule it the right way, and I won't have my luggage being driven around by a bus. American's bus service is scheduled to begin June 3rd. Interesting. Okay, so I've got 4 more articles. Let's take a look. The next article is in Hatch Ideas. See inside one of the last 4 Kmart stores in the U.S. days before it closed down forever. Kmart's sales and locations have been dwindling as the brand continues to fall victim to the retail apocalypse. The 4th to last Kmart store in the U.S. closed on April 16th, and see inside the nostalgic, almost empty store days before it permanently closes doors. So let's click the link. And this is something that I'd have to go and look again. I don't recall exactly what happened with Kmart, but the same thing I think happened with Toys R Us, which is it was acquired um, maybe a decade before, but it had a lot of momentum. Um, and I think if Toys R Us and Kmart both evolved their stores and upgraded them, invested in themselves, and I'm willing to bet, and I don't recall looking into Kmart about this because they closed down so fast. Um, but I'm willing to bet that they were acquired by a private business, a private company, like Toys R Us was acquired by Bain Capital. And I have no qualms about this. I think that there are certain organizations that will siphon away the wealth, trying under the guise of saying we're reorganizing, etc. But I think some companies will just siphon away the value, the wealth, and not reinvest it wholeheartedly with an ambition and drive, a vision of making it better, because there's no reason why Kmart couldn't have recovered and competed with Target. There's zero. There was a lot of momentum with Kmart. All it had to do was reorganize and come out on the other side with the ability to compete at the same level that Target was, except that they never modernized their processes. Every store looks like it's still in the 70s, just like Toys R Us, never updated their stores. You go in it and it was just this kind of lackluster warehouse environment, and never really addressed supply chain issues, never bothered with brand recognition, that never changed the dynamic, just rolled with the kinetic motion of its history until it lost all of its forward motion and died on the vine. Um, Even in the face of Amazon. It says, but now Kmart's glory days are in the past. Yeah. And it's because of its very lack of evolution. Just 2 decades ago, the brand had over 2,000 locations, and it slowly died on the vine. Um, Almost zero marketing ever done compared to others. There was no real brand recognition other than as a deep discount blue label kind of store. Um, and that's the shame of it, and I think that it was kind of predatory in that it was just kind of like a vampire. Its value was slowly sucked away until there was nothing left. But maybe somebody could recover it. I doubt it, though. And the writing is always on the wall of any store that starts selling things outside of the store on tables. Um, and Having rows and rows and rows of deep discount whatever in the back corner of the store. It's always going to be that way, I think. when I first started working in retail when I was much younger, I saw the writing on the wall for a store that I was employed by, and I just moved on from there. I have a lot of articles from Business Insider today for some reason. The next article is in the order of the grape. It's about time we gave up wine, glass wine bottles. Sustainability is a buzzword in every industry, but when it's used to reference to wine, there's an immediate association with organic vineyards, biodynamics, and ever elusive concept of natural wine, quote unquote. Until recently, every time I carried a clanging, beautifully labeled bottles from the nearest natural wine shop home in my canvas tote, I would revel in my eco friendliness, knowing that I had avoided mass produced juice I used to drink straight from the spigot when I was in my college aged Franzia era, and the idea of spending $30 on a bottle was laughable. So let's click this link. It takes us over to vinepair.com. And it's an article written by Samantha Maxwell with some brilliant artwork by Ariella Basson. And by brilliant, I mean very, very shiny. Anyway, neat artwork. And again, it's over at vinepair.com. And they're talking about sustainability. And it says, as it turns out, I'm not the wine sipping environmental warrior I'd imagined myself to be. In fact, Franzia consuming version of myself may have had the right idea after all, at least on the sustainability front. Because while responsible farming practices may be important in producing wines that have minimal negative impact on the environment, sustainability in the wine world comes down to packaging. So it says getting past glass's lack of sustainability has many causes, but it all starts with the production of the material itself. While cans, plastic, cardboard can be produced with renewable energy sources like hydroelectric or solar, glass must be smelted, a process that requires natural gas. This automatically puts glass at a disadvantage on the sustainability front. I won't read all of this, but I'm going to stop right there for one particular thing. I'm not sure what all would be involved in putting wine in aluminum cans, but it's pretty typical that there are things lining the inside of aluminum cans. It's a coating to protect from oxidation or reaction with the material inside, particularly acidic. Um, and so I'm not sure cans are right for wine, although there are some wines that are um, created in aluminum casks. Plastic, I think, is completely out of the question nowadays. It's much more well known now that plastic is leading to microplastics being found inside human tissue. It's found in people's bloods, in their livers, in their muscle, everywhere in the human being, and that this is just dangerous. It's going to lead to cancers. It's going to lead to other maladies. It doesn't get out of your system naturally. Um, and I don't think that cardboard is right either, because again, it has a lining in it. So we're really back to glass. You're not going to be able to use plastic with wine. Um, I think that it's too dangerous for the environment. It's going to lead to additional pollution. Glass can be recycled once it's glass to a much easier degree than the initial smelting process. But you can recycle and recycle and recycle glass over and over and over again, but plastic actually um, degrades with each iteration. And it's lossy. So it basically heats up and off gases, and not all of it comes out on the other end, based on my research of it. I'm sure if there's others out there that hear my voice and want to contend differently, then feel free to show up here on Twitch at 11 o'clock every day, or contact me via the various methods that are out there. You can always get in touch with me. But I think that glass is definitely where it's at. Um, and there's a level of complexity with the aluminum aspect of this that I don't think is really well understood by me to really argue counter to and this article is definitely not going to be able to um, address this because they have somebody in here that in the article that says that Trubnick says that recycling aluminum is significantly easier than recycling glass. In fact, when you throw a glass wine bottle in a recycling bin, you're looking at maybe a third of the glass in your glass bottle being recycled, he says, or she says. And that's if those bottles are even recycled in the first place. Well, that's not a problem if you make society understand, if you teach society that they are the ones that need to do the recycling. Make it economically effective, make it possible for people to recycle items, and it will be recycled more. I mean, if the cost of whatever product it is bound to the the glass, how much is the glass, and then recycle that and then give the money back to the person. What happens is people throw away all of the glass and aluminum, and then recyclers come in and filter through the trash. Well, that's who's making the money on the other end, not the consumer. So really, what is the motivation for the consumer other than ecological savings? And you have to, that's a long teaching. You have to teach them that they are benefiting society and the world and their future for their kids and their kids' kids. But plastic, it has been shown that it is ending up everywhere, and it is caustic to humans. It is dangerous to humans. We need to continue to move away from plastics and find a solution that's superior to plastics. And right now, the only one that really works for across the board is glass. The problem with glass is a safety issue and portability. It's much more dangerous to carry glass around than it is to carry a plastic bottle. But we have to do something other than plastic. Plastic is like the Teflon coating on pots and pans. At one time, it was being marketed as being the best thing since sliced bread, but it's dangerous to human beings. And the researchers that developed the nonstick coating were sued out of existence. It maybe not be Teflon, but the nonstick coatings on pans of bygone ages, the facts of it being harmful to humans was uh, violently suppressed, and it was all about the almighty dollar making money. The same thing with lead and lead paint and lead in fuel for financial short-term financial gain. It harmed every single generation since the 70s. Without a doubt, it has harmed the entire future of human beings. We are, though, able to overcome these things with additional science and through just will alone. But we aren't as good as we could have been if lead paint and lead fuel and Teflon coatings and now plastic had never been deployed. But we're better off, again, because of the ability of plastics to facilitate so much. But the problem is now, with greater science and understanding, we know the harm that we have done to ourselves as a society, as a civilization of humans. Not to get hyperbolic, not to get, kind of perhaps out of my swim lane, but there is no such thing as that in this. This is my show, and this is what I want to talk about. So if you want to talk about it too, come on over and talk to me. The next article, and I'm going to have to go on because I will get bogged down in one thing. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. I tried a $7 burger made in minutes by a robotic vending machine. It tasted average, but I still think it could be the future of fast food. It says here, the New Jersey startup has created the world's first the first burger robot in a box. The Robo Burger vending machine can prepare fresh burgers in about 6 minutes for $7. While the concept was unique, I thought the burger was messy and totally average. If you're an impatient burger connoisseur who hates small talk and people touching your food, I have the perfect concept for your specific needs. So let's click this link. It'll take us over to Business Insider again. Wow, I'm highlighting a lot of articles from Business Insider. So this article is written by Brittany Chang, and it's about a robot burger. And it says here, so they have a unique, I've said this before in other shows, they tend to have like a very small snippet of text and then a picture, and it's kind of like that for each of their articles. If you're an impatient burger connoisseur who hates small talk and people touching your food, this Robo Burger cook is perfect for you. So it's all done by a robot, and there's a new burger startup in town, not the classic brick and mortar restaurant with cashiers and cooks. Let's see what it looks like on the outside. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's too much of a problem there. Recyclable cardboard boxes, although the grease might impact that recyclability. Started out as a concept inside the garage of Audley Wilson. Okay. The company's co-founder and CEO 17 years ago. Oh, bummer. It took 17 years for this to happen. And now it's the world's first robot burger chef, located inside the Newport Center Mall in Jersey City, New Jersey, about 10-minute drive from New York City. Well, I hope somebody is maintaining this thing with an extreme amount of attention. Let's see. The Robo Burger isn't a giant robot arm that slings a spatula while it flips beef patties. Get your burger, Bay 1, Bay 2, according to that picture there. Looks interesting. I mean, it is just a burger, though, so as I stood by the plug-and-play Robo-Burger, I noticed that it consistently drew in onlookers with its bright red exterior, the smell of cooked meat. Oh, God, I hate that phrase. Large touchscreen and promise of a fresh burger made by a robot. Those mushrooms look good over there. Sorry, there's a picture of mushrooms of a video that I don't play. Anyway, so yeah, that's Robo-Burger, and it's over in New Jersey, I suppose. Hopefully it goes out elsewhere. And it's something that I've been telling people that I communicate with kind of on the regular. I deal with hundreds of people, um, maybe thousands throughout the year. They don't know anything about what I do here on the stream. I don't tell anybody that I stream on Twitch. I don't tell anybody that I have a podcast. Or even that ohmTown exists. I've been kind of letting word of mouth happen, and while things are slowly ramping up, the what I tell them and what I talk about here is pretty much the same thing. And one of the things that I tell them is that if you're, and I've said this in previous episodes several times now, I don't know, I need to get word out that this exists to a greater degree, but um, uh, if your job can be turned into a series of steps, this is what happens to your job. And in all cases, technology will eventually win the race. Why? Because humans are very expensive. Humans cost a lot of money to just have around. And robots, they just work. And one person can come in, restack everything, and the burgers get made, and hundreds or thousands of people will flip by. And if the workload overpowers one bot, you can just bring in another bot, and now you have two robo chefs that are cooking burgers here at that mall. And you do it again and again instead of having 15 people. I went into a cookie shop a couple of weeks ago here locally, and there had to have been 20 people that were making cookies, except that all I had to do would be to take the steps, because they had nothing more than steps. One person cooked them, one person decorated them, one person brought them over to the display table and packed them, and another person cashed them out, right? So that's only 4 people. I could reduce that to one person that's doing nothing more than making sure that it's filled. and then everything else is nothing more than basically conveyors from one place to another. And you could decide how you want it decorated and which box to put it in. But all the rest of the people that were in this cookie store were doing one thing: facilitating the customers how they wanted it packed, like in what number of cookies and whatnot. But all of that is programmable into this touchscreen that I'm displaying on the website right now. This happens to be a burger, but you can do it to everything, and that's the problem. Because all it means is somebody with great enough wealth finding the value in converting it to an automated system, and human jobs are gone. Do I have a problem with that? Nope. But I do have a problem with the fact that great wealth is being concentrated, and ultimately people will not be able to survive because they won't have a job. Their job basically leads to automation unless it's a bespoke product, customizing it for each individual, which none of this is. It's all programmatic. So boom, you're done. Um, there isn't anybody saying, "Hey, I want my cookie 2 millimeters larger." And it's being made 2 millimeters larger. There's the cookie, there's the burger, there's the toppings, there's the artwork, whatever it is. Um, so we as humans are going to be replaced by automation, and it's going to be done by the wealthy, not of our own accord. If I could build a robot that could take my place and flip burgers, then I should be able to gain the reward of that robot chef, right? Because I'm the one that programmed it. I'm the one that's cooking it. Yeah, or I'm the one that taught it to cook. It's my robot, and it's been hired by some restaurant to cook on my behalf. So I can sit at the beach, and it generates an income for me. Maybe that might be the future. That might be the solution. But I don't see that happening. I think that's a little bit too forward looking for people. And ultimately, here's the last article for today. This is in the Mobile channel. Inside the implosion of CNN Plus. Seen as the future of CNN, the streaming channel is suddenly killed. Its soon to be owner, Discovery, had concerns, but until the deal closed, it was constrained in guiding a competitor. So let's click this link. Inside the implosion of CNN Plus. Pardon me. Something popped over here, and I sniffled at the same time. So I don't know if my sniffle caused something to fall over. Anyway, again, this is how the sausage is made, folks. Seen as the future of CNN, the streaming channel was suddenly killed. Its soon-to-be owner, Discovery, had concerns, but until the deal closed, it was constrained in guiding a competitor. So, on his fourth day as chief executive of the newly merged Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav gave the order, shut down CNN Plus. So this is an article over at NewYorkTimes.com written by John Koblin, Michael M. Grinbaum, and Benjamin Mullen. And it says on April 11th, the day his newly merged company began trading on NASDAQ, Mr. Zaslav greeted New York employees with pasta and ice cream bars, delivering an impromptu rallying cry to his new charges. He was on his way to Washington. Next stop, the coronation tour, when the call came in. His team had just gotten its first look at data from CNN Plus, the much promoted subscription streaming service, started 2 weeks before. The news was grim. Fewer than 10,000 viewers were watching at any given time, despite a multi-million-dollar ad campaign and big hires like Chris Wallace. They were recommending a cold-eyed review. 3 days later, shortly after Mr. Zaslav appeared with Oprah Winfrey for a rah-rah company town hall, he gathered his deputies inside a low-slung stucco building in Burbank, California on the Warner Brothers studio lot and said he agreed with their conclusion. Shut it down. A $300 million experiment that ended abruptly with layoffs. So, to me, this is because there was nothing There was nothing inside CNN Plus that drew anybody to it. It is the news in a general sense, and the only people that were really passionate about it were the 10,000 people that signed up for it. Much like streaming on Twitch or subscriptions on Apple Plus or subscriptions on YouTube, you're going to get a select few people who want to pay for what is already being presented. You have to add something more to it to make it more compelling than the people that are just passionate about you as a personality. Many other people do that. A lot of streamers have value added stuff beyond what they do every day here as a streamer, but there are going to be people that are passionate about you as a streamer. Same thing with CNN Plus. There are people that were passionate about CNN, so they paid for CNN Plus because it either got rid of the ads, and that was the only value add that they deemed necessary to garner their pay, their money, or CNN Plus was going to bring something more to the table. Well, that never manifested, apparently. It wasn't even in the books based on this short article that I read. But you can read it too. Go over to New York Times and click the link, and you can see for yourself uh, deeper inside the implosion of CNN Plus. I just want to say that not maybe a month ago, I had an article, not an article, an episode that I spoke about CNN Plus, and made the same observation that I think it had a very short lifespan and wasn't going to draw anybody, simply because, yeah, there's a lot of competition. It had nothing more to add, and you can get the news from disparate locations without even being bothered to sign up for another service and add another app. It said Mr. Zucker went on a hiring spree, enticing stars like Ava Longoria, who signed up on for a Mexico-based travel show, and Audie Cornish, the former NPR star. March 2022 start date was set. Then Mr. Zucker um, abruptly resigned, followed by his top deputy, Allison Gullist, a week later. In addition to not disclosing their relationship, the two were accused of violating the network news standards and both deny that. I'm not sure how network news standards. All right. If anything, if anybody is following network news standards, I would be hard pressed to see how. Mr. Morse, who oversaw all of CNN's global digital operations, decided to act in late February and again in early March. He asked if his team could share their vision for CNN Plus with Discovery officials before the merger was complete. He figured that making an early case was the best way to convince Discovery that CNN Plus represented the future. Both times the requests were not granted. So that killed it. I mean, that literally, if you can't embody your vision, nobody will buy into whatever it is you were saying. Then came an ominous sign on March 14th, 2 weeks before CNN Plus was to start. Gunnar Weidenfels, Discovery's chief financial officer, appeared at a Deutsche Bank conference and declared that Discovery Plus and Warner Media's HBO Max would be rolled up into a single giant blowout mega platform, and did not mention CNN Plus. Yeah, so there were some coffin nails being hammered down before it ever even launched. And then there's some representation here that I'm not quite sure made manifest. It said that Mr. Morse said that CNN Plus had secured 150,000 paying subscribers in its first 2 weeks and was on target to hit its first year's goals. He argued that consumers were willing to pay for high quality digital news. CNN Plus cost $6 a month, citing the success of the New York Times. Yeah, I don't think so. You get other stuff with New York Times. People will pay just for games. I think that you get all of the games with New York Times too when you subscribe. So I'll take a look at that. I don't think that it's just, I don't think that the game side of New York Times is free, or a separate fee. Anyway, I'll take a look at that, and we'll come back to this um, as necessary. But there is a whole lot more over at the New York Times article, and feel free to swing by and read it. The link to it is in the show notes and elsewhere. And just want to bring us all the way back to the front door of ohmTown. And if you go to ohmtown.com and you click that front page, it will refresh and give you a whole host of new articles that have been aggregated in the hour that I have been doing the show. And we're actually a little bit over an hour. So with that in mind, I want to thank you all for coming. Or for downloading it, or for viewing it on YouTube. I am kind of all over the place, so please download it as a podcast. Follow me here on Twitch at twitch.tv/ohmtown. Go over to YouTube. You can get the past episodes over there. I'm still uploading podcasts in fits because it's a little bit slower process, and we'll add this one today. So thank you very much for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.